You're listening to The Corbett Report. CorbettReport.com.
Welcome, my friends. Welcome to another edition of the Corbett Report podcast. Today's episode is going to be a documentary episode. That is to say, I've cobbled together some audio of various clips that I think demonstrate the point of today's episode quite clearly. And as such, I don't think there needs to be any audio commentary from me. I'll let you put the pieces together. But of course, as always, all of the audio from today's episode can be found, the source audio for all of the things cited in today's episode can be found on the documentation link that is found on the post of this podcast. So please go to CorbettReport.com and look up podcast episode number 176 to find the documentation. That will take you to the link so you can find out more information about all of these various ways in which government and media are spying on you, tracking you, and databasing you. And it is an incredible list of things, from the very subtle and very covert to the very blatant and very overt, from science fiction, Orwellian nightmare fantasy to mundane reality. And unfortunately, it's all becoming mundane reality at this point. But as I say, this is an audio documentary episode, so that's all you'll be hearing from me on this front this week. So thank you for tuning into the Corbett Report podcast, and please enjoy this audio documentary.
I think surveillance and tyranny, or surveillance and the loss of freedom, really go hand in hand when you look at other civilizations, other societies over the years, all the way up into the 20th century. There is this really strong link between autocratic or despotic or excessive government power and at the same time all sorts of surveillance mechanisms, whether they're secret police or national ID cards or other kinds of mechanisms that are designed to make sure that people are being watched, and perhaps even more insidious, that they know they're being watched.
Here we are at corporate slave America Walmart Supercenter in Hickory, North Carolina, where just before the holidays, Hickory Police Department decided they needed to put up one of these OCX Skywatch towers. They purchased it using JAG grant funding from the Federal Recovery Act of 2009. They started out during the holiday seasons saying they were going to patrol the area for the mass influx of customers coming through here. But what we have seen is that they just moved it shortly after the turn of the year to the local Target parking lot, and they also ended up putting it over at the mall. But this week I ride by and here it is back here again. It's manufactured by OCX, ICX. They are a Department of Homeland Security contractor. I don't believe they're out here today, or else they would have already started a conversation with me. I've talked to them before. All they really had to say was that it was, quote, operational. Security cameras. This is total police state. First time I come out here, somebody had a van parked out here that said, Ron Paul was right.
There will be much work for us to do in the next year and in the next Congress. We need look no further than the grossly unconstitutional and immoral policies of the Transportation Security Administration, demanding that we either be irradiated or fondled to travel in our own country, to see that those who would deprive us of our civil liberties on the empty promise of full security will not be given up easily. We must continue standing up to them, and we must not compromise. We must not allow the out-of-control Department of Homeland Security to impose an East German-like police state in the U.S. where neighbors are encouraged by Big Brother or Big Sister to inform on their neighbors. We must not accept that government authorities should hector us via television screens as we go about our private lives like we are living in Orwell's 1984.
Hi, I'm Janet Napolitano, Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. Homeland Security begins with hometown security. That's why I'm pleased that Walmart is helping to make our communities more safe and secure. If you see something suspicious in the parking lot or in the store, say something immediately. Report suspicious activity to your local police or sheriff. If you need help, ask a Walmart manager for assistance. Thank you for doing your part to help keep our hometowns safe.
Well, the government is now using X-rays to X-ray you while you drive around. That's right, using the same technology that's in those airport scanners. Feds are now using these mobile X-ray vans, and they can see through cars, walls, and clothing. Joining us now is Mark Rotenberg, who's the Executive Director of Electronic Privacy Information Center. Mark, it's good to see you. We live in a very dangerous world. There are people who want to hurt us and hurt us badly. What is wrong with the government using this technology in an attempt to keep us safe?
Well, I think in some circumstances it's appropriate. New technologies do help make us safe.
So let's talk about something that could be great news for the war. You know, you can count on our scientists and innovators to come up with things to make it better and make our soldiers more effective in battle. And how about this? A better eye in the sky. They're calling it the Blue Devil. It's a huge thing. They call it the size of an enormous, which was already a freakishly large blimp that's in the sky.
7 times the size of the Goodyear blimp. And here's what is interesting. Is that, you know, that we hear that the Predator drone is a great way to keep an eye on things from the sky. But effectively, the viewpoint they have is like looking down a straw, down a soda straw. With the Blue Devil, what they can do is they've got so many cameras on board, they can actually take a look and know exactly what's going on over 36 square miles. And normally, to be able to analyze all that stuff, you would need 2,000 analysts. But instead, they've got these supercomputers on board that do all the figuring out about, okay, we just heard somebody right over there say this, how do we follow them?
Well, Ogden will soon have a new crime-fighting tool, a blimp. The city worked with Weber State University to develop unmanned aerial surveillance. Fox 13's Erica Vaughn is live with why a dirigible was the top choice. Hey, Erica.
Hey, Max, nice job saying that. That's why I didn't want to say it. But basically, the mayor of Ogden is saying that a blimp is cheaper than a small helicopter or a fixed-wing airplane. They say that this blimp can also hover in one place, say, for example, over a parking lot where there may have been a rash of break-ins and they might need some of that surveillance. The blimp that Weber State designed and Ogden was on its police force doesn't look like the typical fat blimp. It's shaped like a cigar. It's 52 feet long and 4 feet wide. Cameras are mounted on it and give a really clear view of what's happening on the ground. Weber State's Center of Aeronautical Innovation has been testing their creation and says it's perfect for police work. The blimp can hover in place, can pivot, or it can pursue. Its top speed is 40 miles per hour.
The United States government has gone surveillance crazy. From taking the weather satellites that have watched the rest of the world and are now focusing on Americans. It seems like all the surveillance being done now, from the investigations of Pentagon officials now to everyone, is under the gun. But they're not terrorists. They're just your ordinary American citizens. The latest gadgetry to be revealed recently are so-called insect-like drones. War protesters in both Washington and New York City, small groups of people, and these are, again, not terrorists, and the government knows they're not terrorists, they've noticed these little insect-like things flying over them. And, of course, the government denies that they're really surveillance cameras, but the people that have been there, eyewitnesses, have noticed they stop, they kind of focus, and they look like mechanical bugs. Come to find out after some research, it was revealed that the government really does have a number of these kind of gadgets, from catfish, they have small birds they've designed, and they're all designed for one thing, to watch us. For a long time, the government's been trying to perfect these kind of gadgets. And again, not to watch terrorists per se, they're watching American citizens. Since the 1970s, the CIA has been involved, the Department of Defense has been involved. And so now we've got one more link in this, what I would call the electronic concentration camp.
It's CCTV, but not as we know it. These pictures are from thinking cameras. They're counting the number of passengers on this railway platform, and they're programmed to pick out any unusual movement or behaviour. Like the 7/7 London bombers, researchers at Reading University think they've got the technology to spot the terrorists before they strike. And government ministers think it could make all the difference.
we're able to look within a plane in terms of how people behave, and again, that adds to it. But of course, ideally, we want to stop people ever getting to a plane, and that, I believe that this will enable us to do it, and I believe, well, I know we are ahead of anyone in the world in this area.
Umar Farouk Abdul Muttalab, who allegedly tried to blow up this plane over Detroit on Christmas Day. The new generation CCTV that could have identified him earlier is already being tried out on aircraft and here on the ground at Toulouse Airport in France. We were given the chance to put it to the test by abandoning a suspect item among a small crowd made up of volunteers. I'm pretending to be a terrorist by taking my bag and leaving it just here, and then walking away and seeing whether the system can pick me up. Within seconds, a computer has compared my movements with the people around me, and before I've even left the area, the alarm flashes. Bag and bomber identified.
Blake Robbins never imagined the computer he got from school could peer into his personal life.
I thought that there was no way that they could do this at my home.
His parents, Holly and Michael Robbins, filed a federal lawsuit against his suburban Philadelphia school district, claiming administrators spied on him using a remote-controlled webcam on his school-issued laptop.
I don't feel that the school has the right to put cameras inside the kids' home, inside their bedrooms, and spy on children.
The suit claims a Harriton High School official enabled the device, concerned the sophomore was engaged in improper behavior in his home. An assistant principal later confronted the student, citing a photograph taken by the webcam as evidence.
So I click and there's an observe button and it brings up their screen. Photo booth is always fun. A lot of kids are just on it to check their hair, do their makeup, the girls, you know. They just use it like it's a mirror.
So wait, do all the kids have the cameras on?
6th and 7th grade have cameras. This kid looks like they're editing their MySpace page. She doesn't need to be doing that. They don't even realize that we're watching. I always like to mess with them and take a picture. You know, 9 times out of 10 they duck out of the way because they don't, and then they shut down and they get right back to work.
It's the stuff horror films are made of.